Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Leo. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. How are you this fine morning?
Yeah, fabulous. I don't want to brag, but I woke up and I went to the gym and I did my butt class. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So was it hardcore workout today? Did you smash it?
It was pretty hardcore and I did smash it. I felt like my legs were on fire. And also I had because I'm going to the States the week after next, I'll be gone and missing my Pilates. And so I tried to recoup it last night. And there was no one else there. It's usually a class of 3, and there was no one there. So it was the full attention of the torture of the teacher on me. She put me in this weird contraption. She had me hanging upside down from my ankles on these I was wondering, is this what prisoners of war feel like? But hanging there for days. So yeah, my body's been through it this week.
I love it. I love it. Doesn't that say everything you need to know about the 21st century, that we are putting ourselves into punishments that people in the 20th century had to endure as part of war?
There you go.
There you go. There's a business idea in there, Sarah, somewhere, isn't there? Just let's just cut out the middleman. Let's not pretend it's about exercise. Let's just give people a ton of pain for an hour and then send them home. They'll probably be really happy with it, right?
I think those businesses already exist on some more seedy sites.
Good point. Okay.
So,
all right. Well, let's leave that business alone then. That sounds a little too seedy for us, doesn't it? Let's stick to the gym routine.
There we go. Gym for us.
Sarah, it's November. We're firmly. I'm saying to people it's winter. Some people are saying it's still autumn. I feel like it's winter. What's happening in Barcelona? Anything going on at this time of year? What's the vibe?
For me, it's full on winter. For any normal people that don't live in Barcelona, it is probably like very beginning of autumn. It is. It's like, I don't know, 15 degrees, which to me is really cold, and maybe 18 during the day. So that to me is full on winter. Yeah, it's just unacceptable. I've had to get out the jackets. You're in that weird thing. I walk to the office too, and so it's like half an hour, and then I'm in that weird limbo where it's freezing outside. So when you walk outside, you need a scarf and you need all the things so you don't get a cold. But then as you start walking, then you get hot. So you get to the office, and there's just too many. It's a big faff. Yeah, it's a real disaster.
I am with you. That is that time of year where you turn up and then you're sweaty, aren't you? But you're like, but I needed it when I got out. Yeah, I needed it. Where are you, by the way? I mean, this is great content. I'm sure this will be edited out because it's so boring. But I think this is great content. Where are you on the office wars of the air conditioning? Because it feels to me like I always get unlucky. I get so bloody cold with air conditioning, and I'm surrounded by people that just want it to be like 15 degrees or whatever. They want that aircon on their face. Where do you fall on the office aircon wars?
We have a bunch of hippies in our office, and we have a green plan that we have signed. So nobody is allowed to touch the thermostat. And if you do, you get properly shamed for ruining the environment because we're in Barcelona. And so there's like a certain cutoff time until it's a certain temperature outside. There is like a pledge that we have all agreed to and signed. And that is we will not turn on the heating until it gets below this. And we will not turn on the aircon unless it is above this.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, mostly it results in people opening windows, and we're on the 8th floor. So it just gets really breezy. And then you've got people cold and people hot. It's the same thing. It's just the eco-friendly version.
Eco-friendly. Okay. Well, at least it's the eco-friendly version of it. We're going to have to go live from the DNA office sometime because that just sounds like a riot, Sarah. It sounds like
I don't travel sustainably, but I work sustainably, Leo. So
anyone who's listening who hasn't guessed, I think it's fair to say Sarah signed this pledge under duress, one would imagine. One would
I was
imagine.
lured in by the cool offices and the free snacks, let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah, big time. And dude, so you're going back for Thanksgiving. Where do you fly to?
So I fly through Washington, DC, and then going straight to Columbia, South Carolina,
Ugh,
my home
mate,
digs. Yeah,
amazing. Well, I hope that means we get to do a show from you there. But we'll obviously touch more on on Thanksgiving soon. Um,
sounds
it
great.
feels to me like we need a Thanksgiving equivalent in Europe because it's a long time till Christmas, and I know this because my daughter's already started singing the Christmas songs. And of course, I'm enthusiastic, so I'm singing them with her. And I'm enjoying it. I've probably done Jingle Bells like 25 times already, which is 25 times more than probably most other adults at this stage of the year. So I'm just putting it out there. Europe, UK, I think we need our own version of Thanksgiving just to break up that monotony of Christmas songs.
I would totally agree with that. In our office, we do a Thanksgiving, which I'm going to be missing this year, but we do basically a potluck. And so we've turned it into this cool, like, international Thanksgiving because we have people from all different countries at the office in Barcelona. And so everybody brings a traditional dish from their place of origin. And then we vote on it. And then obviously there's prizes. So it has to turn into a competition as to who had the best dish. No shocker, the Italians always win, which is just disgusting, really. But yeah.
What's your dish, Sarah? What do you make?
Mine is my mom's famous macaroni and cheese, which is always like runner up and never wins because I always get beat out by the Italians. It's like it's an Italian dish, people. It's pasta. Hello.
Yeah. They just don't like the fact that you've messed with a classic, right? You've messed.
I've
Yeah, yeah,
bastardized it. Yeah, according to them.
yeah.
Mm.
Go back to the origin, the source. So I heard I feel like I've said this before on the pod. Oh my, if I have, I'm a really dull person. But the idea. So the rumor that pasta is actually Chinese, right? Have you heard that rumor?
No.
So that was made up. So the story goes by the American Pasta Association 100 years ago because they wanted to s- sort of give the impression that pasta was more international than just Italian, and they wanted to get the Irish, the English, the Scottish Americans, whoever, the Germans, they wanted to get them all eating it. So they started this rumor that was like, actually, no, pasta was invented in China. It's a very international food. Isn't that incredible?
I mean, to be fair, I guess it depends on what you consider pasta because I'm thinking like in a lot of places in Asia, they do eat like rice noodles. So that to
True.
me is technically pasta, but it's just not grain pasta. It's rice pasta. So maybe they're not so far off. I think their origins were probably off, but I guess if you consider that pasta,
I don't think they did. I think it was a PR stunt, and what a bloody good one! Because 100 years later, we're still saying it. We got to move on from this. But if anyone thought that was interesting, please send me an email because I'm not sure if that was interesting. So anyone can reassure me that'd be great. Just one email would be reassuring. All right, let's get into it. Busy week, busy. It seems to be non-stop busy at the moment in the short-term rental world, hospitality generally. Um, SDR or hospitality highlights. I've got to start, Sarah, because I sent you this one on WhatsApp. I was so excited. So excited. I mean, come on, Sarah, we remember the original Gladiator, right? Like we're old enough to remember the original. So this is
we
exciting.
do. And
You
as
know,
soon as you sent it through, Leo, all I can imagine is you dressed up in a gladiator uniform, warrioring your way through a fake lion. I love it. We should tell the people what it's about first before we go into
yeah,
story.
true, true. So it's an article in Condé Nast Traveler magazine online. Airbnb's latest experience invites guests to immerse themselves into ancient Rome by participating in a gladiator event at the Colosseum. Come on. I mean, this goes along. We've had around the Olympics, we had Wake Up in the Musée d'Orsay, butcher the pronunciation, sorry. In Paris, we've had, things around gigs and, big promotions. So this is to celebrate, I guess, the launch of Gladiator 2. Well, it is. It's definitely to launch so 16 guests, there's 16 spots here, 8 pairs. Will get to explore the Colosseum's underground chambers, dress in gladiator armor. And by the way, can you believe it? This experience is free. Come on. I mean, this is unbelievable. And then they get to watch 2 seasoned gladiators go at it and fight. Now, I hope it's not fight to the death, but you get to watch two seasoned gladiators go at it, and then they get to participate themselves. They eat a feast, sort of gladiators feast with wine, and then they get to have a go at some jousting and gesticulating and whatever it is that gladiators do. I mean, this sounds phenomenal. Sarah, are you signing up?
I am not signing up. I have 2 questions though. My first question is, do you have to wear all of the armor just as the gladiators did? Because I remember doing a research project on this sometime in high school, and that stuff was really heavy. Like, I don't know if I read correct, but it weighed like 10 to 12 kilos. Like, I can't even walk with that stuff on, much less do a tour in that get up. And the second one, actually, I have three now. The second one is, how do you apply? And the third is, have you applied?
So you can't apply until the 27th of November. Um, and I'm hoping that by talking about this on the podcast, someone will see my application and accept it. I mean, I'm essentially hoping that I get picked for that reason. If I get chosen, then I will do a live video from the Gladiator pit. No, I think I will apply actually. One of my buddies is a big Roman nut actually. So the city I was born in was Chester, is a Roman city. It's got Europe's largest amphitheater outside the Colosseum, still in existence. And it's really funny because the first time I took my partner there, first time I took Jasmine there, and we were early on in our relationship, I kind of was, I jokingly said, because I was like, it's a Roman city. I jokingly said, oh, you might still see the odd Roman knocking around. And as we drove through the city, someone was obviously on their break from being at the Roman Museum. So there was a guy walking along, smoking a cigarette, like in the Roman outfit. Like it was so funny because he was just like on his cigarette break, just sort of walking to get something from the shop or something, like smoking. And his Roman
Oh,
said, "Look, I told you, there's still Romans here."
oh gosh.
Why? Maybe that's why.
That's like when you go to Disney World, take the kids to Disney World, and then, Minnie Mouse takes off her helmet or headpiece, and it's like some 50-year-old man under there just smoking with a deep voice. Ruined for everyone.
Ruined for everyone. Ruined for everyone. Okay, well that was my highlight, and I'm pretty proud of it. What's caught your eye this week?
That sounds good. I am talking regulation. So, mine is that Booking.com is in compliance finally, or so they said. So they had a revision of the new regulations put out in Europe. So, three main things as a part of this. So it's just part of the Digital Markets Act. And essentially, they have eliminated parity requirements. This is a huge one because for a long, long time, the reason I think that Booking has been able to drive so many direct bookings to keep people on their platform without going to book directly through, for example, the property manager or through the hotel themselves, is because they have this price parity clause in there. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do. My hunch is that they're just going to increase the discounts that are being offered so that they can basically match that parity anyway. So they're not requiring the host or the owner of that property to do the price parity, but I have a feeling that they're probably going to find a way around it to do it themselves. But that's just my 2 cents and my cynicalness.
Always welcome.
They have also launched a tool to give travelers better access to their own personalized data. So this is, in my mind, like basically just like a souped up version of GDPR, right? How can you access what Booking.com has on you? And then they have also, according to them, improved partners' access to see where bookings are coming from, when promotions are being offered, if they're leaving money on the table, if they're losing out on reservations. I'm really curious to see. So if we have any listeners that are logged into this platform, we would love to learn more about it and kind of if you think it's actually worth it or not, if it's helpful or not. And so I thought this was a super interesting one. It's been a battle that's been going on for quite some time now. And so I think some interesting things. I am, as always, a bit cynical when these kind of things come up. I think that as a big corporation, money is the bottom line, especially for a company that is listed on the stock exchange. So, they have shareholders to answer to, and we will see if it's all just noise. And they'll find ways around it, which I think they probably will. Maybe not quite as strictly, but yeah. What about you, Leo? What do you think?
Well, they'll definitely find ways around it. I also love that you come at it with a slight edge of cynicism, which is I think is healthy when you're looking at how a big company might react to legislation like this. I'd first of all, because we've focused on this in the past, right? We've talked about this, and we said like, oh, I wonder how quickly they'll be able to get themselves in a position where they are compliant. So amazing that after 6 months they would say they're compliant. I agree. I think the parity clause is the most interesting bit. I really like that because it stops the bigger player bullying the smaller players into playing the game with the set of rules they want to play it with, and opens the market slightly. That's probably the bit that I'm least cynical about, because that I think means that there's a chance. Now you're right; they can probably use technology to find ways to drop rates where they see them lower in other places. But then it
Mhm.
becomes a game of cat and mouse, as opposed to I'm telling you what to do. I'm dictating the terms by which you trade. Um, which I so I think that's the big reason, and I think it's I think it's a decent bit of legislation on the whole. I like it. I'm pro it. The Digital Markets Act. I think it's good, and I'm really pleased to see that Booking.com have got themselves in a position where they feel they can say they're being compliant. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm sure there's bits they're
Yeah.
sidestep. But I've always had that impression of Booking.com, that it's a good European-based business that wants to play by the rules.
Mm.
And again, it's slightly had its wings clipped. I know, obviously, it's got a big presence in the US as well. Slightly had its wings clipped and has reacted to it. Clearly, and we're going to go on in a second to talk earnings. Clearly, it's not doing them any harm. Is the first thing I would say. And the noise recently. It's been a bit of news about it in the UK. Is that Booking.com's share of the market, the SDR market, has grown in Europe since 2021 from 32% to 47%.
Mm.
And that's at somewhat the expense of Airbnb, which has dropped from 43% to 40%. And when I started speaking to hosts about it anecdotally, I think we might have mentioned it last week on the pod. We might have mentioned it, might have come up, but when I started speaking to hosts about it anecdotally, just in calls and catch-ups, people are saying that right now there's still probably roughly a bit of parity between Booking.com and Airbnb bookings, but when they look to the future bookings, it's massively skewed towards Booking.com. So
Mm.
in quite short order, they've managed to find a way to navigate this act, and it clearly is not doing them any harm. So I would assume they'll chalk that up to a win, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we can talk about that a little bit more when we discuss some of the earnings that have come out as well this week. So we had Verbo, we had Booking, and we had HomeToGo. So should we dive into those, Leo?
Let's do it. I mean, what I like about the focus here is either like HomeToGo is such a European business, such one I think we can be really proud of in Europe for how well they've done, and obviously Holler do the same. They kind of the German rivals. I really enjoy the German rivals we have in the space who are doing great things. So I think why don't we start there? Why don't we start with HomeToGo, and we'll double back for Booking. So um,
And
essentially, it seems to be very good news for them. So HomeToGo has upped its guidance for the full year 2024, following a solid third quarter. We're using an article from FocusWire. The company's reported booking revenues of almost 63 million euro for the quarter, which is a 38% jump year over year, and an all-time high. So that's the headline. So where we're seeing definitely for the bigger OTAs, Booking, Verbo, and Airbnb, growth still looking healthy-ish. This shows you sort of the journey that HomeToGo have been on. The fact that they're reporting 38% growth year on year, it's amazing, and it's adjusted EBITDA of for Q3 36 million euros, up 28%. And this is particularly interesting as well. Then they've got what they would call their pro business unit, HomeToGo's pro business unit, which I was aware of, but I didn't know how impactful it was to their business, which is where people are using their software and services. So property manager and rental businesses are using parts of their booking engine software, which we have touched on, I think, in the past. That the
Mhm.
rebooking revenues were 20 million euros, up 6%
Yeah.
year on year. This also includes subscription revenues, 5.4 million. So that's starting to become more of a significant part of what HomeToGo do, which is great.
How does that subscription work then? Is that like a corporate subscription where they get access to discounts, or do you know any more about that? If not, we can do some
The-
research.
So the subscription would be to using their services, using their business services. So you might
Okay.
use so you might use some of their software to power some of your websites, or PMS. It's not having them as a B2B. It's not like a B2C product. It's them selling you an element of what they do and you paying revenues to them that way.
Okay, makes sense. I thought it was something to do with corporate travel. Is what sort of where my head went, and I was thinking, is this another loyalty program for corporate travel
There you
to get access to these business ready listings? That's what I thought.
go.
Maybe it was.
And here we go, because loyalty is going to come up a lot, right? And in the on the other side of it, that seems to be the buzzword of the Q3 earnings reports, right? Across the
Mm,
industry. But no, in this case, no, I think. Interesting. So really good story to tell in Europe. North America for HomeToGo, not as buoyant is the
mm,
headline there. Um, but no plans to exit the market. So they've been questioned on this, but they say, look, I wouldn't say we're necessarily satisfied with how we're performing in North America, but it's not loss making, it's profitable. Therefore, we'd never think about pulling back from it. And I think that's interesting because um, we've talked about how HomeToGo has used M&A in the past.
mhm.
Holiday's used M&A. When I was researching that, it came up. I hadn't realized this, but in 2019, they bought Tripping, an OTA based in the US, to help penetrate that market. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them start to think about another M&A type deal to maybe help bolster their North American market. Don't know. That's not me talking in. That's not me hearing rumors. I'm just thinking it might be something we see over the next 12 months, because they haven't been shy to do things like that in the past. And it might just help plug a hole for them. They're not seeing the growth they want to see. Watch this space. Um, and then we touched on the potential acquisition with Interhome a few weeks ago. Um, no update. Potential acquisition,
No.
no update. It's still in discussions, due diligence ongoing. So interesting. So I'd
Okay.
say HomeToGo feeling buoyant, and let's put it down to really it's increased booking revenues that's really driving and telling the good story for them. Um, and therefore we can say sort of growing dominance within their segment. Clearly the pro unit, the 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 tools they sell is adding to that. But I think we can put this down to taking a stronger chunk of the market that they're booking in. So I think it's very interesting. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the most interesting one is just the struggle that traditionally European OTAs have entering the North American market. I think we've seen this as well with Booking.com, where they went in extremely bullish, and I think it's been a lot slower to have that growth than they were anticipating. I don't know if it's because Americans love a brand. I mean, I think about even the way that we name things. Like, I don't call it an ear stick or whatever we call it in Spain. I call it a Q-tip because that's the brand name. Or I don't call
Yeah.
it like lip salve, it's chapstick. you know? It's so I wonder how much of that is cultural, of just, the North American market being much more affine to specific brands and to the names, and the fact that Airbnb and even Verbo kind of originally launched there and have such a good foothold. And I wonder if that has anything to do with it. um, so for me, it's just a common theme that I think keeps coming up with some of these traditionally European OTAs.
Yeah.
So, hmm,
I think that's a good point. And lest we forget how challenging Booking.com found the American market at first. In that, I think there's a different story now, but it was definitely a challenge for them, wasn't it? Interesting. We'll go on
mhm,
to just a final thought on HomeToGo. Share price is up 20% over the last 6 months, with a fairly consistent growth, slight dip, but a fairly consistent growth through September really onwards, in terms of their price. So yeah, I'd say watch this space where they are concerned, because I think they're making waves. And again, there's my M&A prediction for America. You heard it here first, which means it'll probably never happen. There you go. Sarah, tell us more. Tell us about Booking and Verbo.
let's do it. Awesome. So I took wrote what for me was a really great summary for Rental Scale Up. So article by TOMSO, really really well done. I like the way that he organizes things, because anybody can kind of read the returns, but he is really good at pulling out, these are the takeaways and here's the comparison. So I'm going to kind of go with a little bit of a different approach for the discussion around this article. I think I'm going to give two highlights. So for Booking, for me, the most interesting thing in their earnings for our sector is that alternative accommodation nights are now 35% of their total bookings. So that is a 10% increase in listings. And for me, it's super, super interesting. I feel like that is a place where booking has maybe traditionally struggled in all of their markets because they're so tied in with hotels, I think traditionally. And Expedia has some of the same things, which thus the Verbo acquisition, right? Um, on the Verbo side, it has had a fabulous first full quarter of growth. And this is mostly driven by urban travel, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Um, the sort of three pillars of the earnings for a point of comparison that Tebow makes, which I really love, is um, one is growth and expansion. So let's talk about how Booking is doing this. They're basically making massive bets on this idea of showing inventory side by side. So hotels and vacation rentals, blurring the lines even further for travelers. And I think this is probably part of the success that they've had in increasing the number of listings and the number of bookings for alternative accommodation segment. Um, and then on the Verbo side, really interesting one here. They have chosen to go urban when everyone is fleeing urban. Verbo has added 1 million new listings in urban areas. So this to me was, I don't know, I kind of chuckled to myself a little bit. Maybe they have an oracle and know something nobody else does, but I found it really interesting that they have chosen to focus their growth on urban. I don't know. It was a it was an interesting one for me. What do you think, Leo?
I think I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, watch out Airbnb, right? They're going after their lunch. They're having a
Yeah.
go. Um, and I guess they've always done really well in traditional vacation rental markets. I guess the bet slightly as well, the the inventory, people that are booking those traditional vacation rental markets are also the type of people that will go on city breaks, go to the urban, and the properties are going to be available. Let's just try and eat into the chunk that our rivals take. I think it's got to be that, right? So maybe just, can we see it as a getting up to speed in the urban area where maybe they've been lacking?
I think maybe so. It just still for me was interesting timing.
Yeah,
It's something that I could have seen them doing 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But now it just seems I don't know if it's too little too late or maybe they have intel that we don't know. Let's see.
yeah. I'd be surprised. I'd love it, by the way, if we could stop telling the story about increased regulation across urban
Me too.
areas every week. But unfortunately, we haven't even talked about the fact that we've seen it in Lisbon and other areas. Every week, there's a couple of new cities, right? We haven't even talked about it
Mm,
this week. So
yeah.
yeah, I do agree. I think you're right to pull that out again. Maybe they assume that even though the pie is being sort of disrupted, it's still worth taking a slice and getting themselves where they need to go. So yeah, for me, the
That's
first thing to say is look out Airbnb, right? For sure.
mm,
Um, and Booking.com, I think, are just having a pretty good year. I'm sure you're going to go on to talk a little about the loyalty stuff too, right?
I
Which
know.
Airbnb hasn't yet done. They must be looking at it at some point because it seems to be both Expedia and Booking seem to be using it really well. We touched on this last week as well. The fact that they can also do B2B. But the point that you said that I really liked was this idea. It is so true. The fact that they're seeing hotel and short-term rental accommodation side by side on a map view just
Mhm.
makes your um, supply just even more concentrated and give you even more options. And that's ultimately what the traveler wants, right? They want to be like, oh, cool. I'm landing in Bangkok. I actually don't know where I should be staying yet. But like, if I can see something that shows me everything that's available, then I can start to make my decision. So it's it's an obvious point, but it's a limiting factor when you consider them in a battle against Airbnb that they've technically got way more supply that they can show than Airbnb can show.
Yeah, totally agree. And interesting that you bring up the point about the Airbnb loyalty programs. I think we've seen that. That is the buzzword, as you said, in Q3 for all of the earnings. So Booking.com really banging on again about their Genius program, how they're making it easier for mobile users and frequent travelers, and just reiterating that as a main focus for their growth. And then for Verbo, their one key loyalty program is now offering cross platform points rewards. So that's across all of Expedia's platforms. I think that's going to have a huge impact on Verbo's kind of catching up, as I would see it, to what would be a Booking.com's Genius program. So that's a really interesting one and one we want to keep an eye on. And then the other kind of main focus that came out of these earnings was this concept of creating unique guest experiences. So Booking.com really still focused on these ideas of connected trips. So, you can book flights and stays and activities and cars and everything you need for your trip all in one place. Really interesting that we're seeing Airbnb kind of go in that direction. So there's some parallels there. And then on the Verbo side, they have made a lot of investment into their mobile app. So putting out tons of marketing campaigns, focusing on how easy it is to host on Verbo. I think taking away, maybe that is one of the things that they identified as one of the barriers to entry in a lot of markets was like, oh, that seems like a hassle, can't be bothered. And so they've put out some massive marketing campaigns specific to this to make it easy to host, easy to do everything through the mobile app. And try and use that to increase conversions of bookings as well as increase usage of the app itself. So they're making some really big bets there on technology, which is an interesting one.
Yeah, I like the connected trip idea. I really do. I think that makes a
Me
ton of
too.
sense, right? Like get it all in one place and then have it all linked back into the app and earning points, earning loyalty points for the whole thing. I
Mhm.
that appeals. I think that probably appeals to the North America consumer slightly more than the European consumer. You've lived in both places, Sarah. You'd agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think in Europe as well, like we're just a lot more open to hyper local in many scenarios rather than sort of the ease of things.
Yeah.
um, and we're a lot more price sensitive as well. So I think there's always a little bit of healthy skepticism from Europeans on, oh, but if I'm bundling, is it really cheaper, or are you putting a 10% margin just because you think it's making it easier for me?
Yeah, price sensitivity in Europe is the phrase, right? It is the phrase, isn't it? Which is why I think that the okay, so against points and connected trips, right? I think it's brilliant. I think we'll do really well in America. Europe, what I think does really well is being able to see a comparison of the really cheap hotel next to the really cheap apartment. I don't think searching in that way, which is where Booking.com has done really well with that. I don't think searching in that way is necessarily what's done by people that are trying to have an amazing time and spend as much money as possible and have a unique experience. But that tends to be a bit of a race for the bottom in terms of pricing, I think. Again, no bad thing if it's shoulder season, you want to take those bookings. But it also makes me think in terms of like actionable insights for property managers. Really when you're pricing during shoulder season, as things get quieter and you're in a foot race. Really, it's important to look at how the hotel's pricing and not just your competitors' SDR space, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally agree. Totally agree. Let's keep an eye on it. Are you a member, by the way, Leo, of any kind of loyalty program with Expedia, for example? I mean, booking is an easy one because you just need an account and all of a sudden you have a Genius account.
Yeah.
But what about
Uh,
Expedia? I don't have that one.
I use Booking.com quite a lot. I use because I book hotels in Barcelona when we go to trips. I sometimes book my American hotels on Booking.com. So I think I've got quite a lot of Genius loyalty points. But again, I've never used them. I've never done anything with them. So I'm not a great example. I do the airline point thing. I don't spend them, but I do the airline point thing because it'd be silly not to the amount that I fly across the Atlantic. But um, I think I'm more of the European mindset, right? When I'm booking something, I'm just trying to get the best deal for it.
Yeah.
And I think I am starting to think more about connected trips because I know Booking.com do the car rental as well, things like that. But again, it's yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like a points focused person really so much. I can totally understand though how others are, but when you speak to Americans, again, it's such a generalization, so clip my wings for saying it like this, Sarah. But when I speak to Americans, everybody talks about the point clubs they're in, right? Oh, I'm in Delta for this. I'm in this. I'm in this, and
It's
we
because
just
they're
don't do
good,
that in Europe. Yeah, but it's
because
true.
they suck in Europe. When I first moved, of course, I looked into that because I had this great credit card in the US
Mhm.
and like you get all these points and I was traveling and it was fabulous. And then I tried to use it here and then of course it didn't work because I don't live there anymore and they found it out. So they canceled my card. So then I tried to get one here and like the rewards points just they're they suck. They're
Yeah.
terrible. Like, why would you ever sign up for a credit card and risk signing your life away if there's nothing good in for it? Like, I just don't understand. But that's the classic American way. It's like you get the credit card, you pay everything on that credit card, and then at the end of the month, you just have an automatic. You have so it's like a debit card essentially,
Mhm.
and that's the smart way to do it, I guess. And then you get all the points, and then you travel and you do cool things, and you get discounts on restaurants and all. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it's they're great. I don't know why Europe hasn't come on to as much as Europeans love a deal. They love a
Yeah.
deal. They would love this.
Yeah. Well, I think it fundamentally comes down to the fact that Europeans and I include British people in this, by the way, don't like spending money in the first place. That's why it hasn't quite taken off in the same way, right? If there's the joy in spending money, there's also the joy in the points you get from spending the money. That means you then get the points to buy more stuff with the points. It's all very exciting. No, I agree. I think it could be. But again, like we're not just, I think here when we're talking about the growth, we're obviously not just talking about the growth of these companies in Europe. I can see how these things will be really smart. And I think in Europe, the smartest thing they can do is just drive the value for money thing, right? Which is, I
Yeah.
think, why before the Digital Markets Act prohibited it, Airbnb was so focused on ensuring that you couldn't find the rate cheaper anywhere else than their website, because I think they know how important that is in like the search market in those
Yeah.
European areas. We're over time. We tried not to be over time. How we've done it again.
I don't know.
30 seconds. What are you up to? What's happening? What's going on?
I am focused on packing. I leave for the States next Friday. So
Nice.
I'm really excited. So I'll be there for like 8 days. So really looking forward to it. Gonna go to the big Thanksgiving with the whole family and get to see some friends from uni and stuff. So visit with the parents. It's gonna be amazing. I'm really excited.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, I'm going to hold you to the fact that we're going to do something while you're in South Carolina. So I'm going to podcast
Sounds
with you while you're there.
it sounds good, but my mom will join. So just be prepared. She's a character.
And I am packing too. We're packing for our big move to Brighton, and we're getting ready for the wedding. So busy in my world too.
That is exciting. I can't believe you're moving. I can't believe you're moving and getting married at the same time. Those are two of the most stressful things one can do, Leo. Not to freak you out, but what are you thinking?
While holding two small children through the whole process. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why we've chosen to do this to ourselves, but there you go. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I hope it's been mildly interesting this week. I think we've taken a few tangents and we found it interesting. So tell us if you agree that talking about, what was it we talked about early on that I found really fascinating? Oh yeah, the aircon wars in offices. The aircon wars in
Oh,
offices. Was that exciting? I still don't know. This is one email will tell me. Thanks, guys. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit like, share, subscribe, and all the usual social places. Until next time, take care. Thank you.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.